Hey there, Bear fam. Welcome to another episode of Bear Thoughts. I recently watched a documentary which I cannot get out of my mind. It's been something that I've been thinking about ever since I watched it. And in it, I watched images of heaps of clothes lined along the shores of Ghana and the trucks of so-called recycled electronics being shipped across country borders only to land up in Thailand, where workers risk their health and their lives attempting to dismantle them. This documentary that I saw featured testimonies of former employees from some of the biggest multinational corporations, revealing the marketing tactics that push us to consume more than we perhaps ever need. Citing various examples, they explained how we are strategically fed new models and trends, making us feel like we have no choice but to buy even when we don't really want to. By now, you might have guessed which documentary I'm referring to. I'm talking about Buy Now, which is now streaming on Netflix, and it explores the reality of overconsumption, a topic that's gaining more and more traction as we realize how much we all are affected by it. But what is overconsumption? To put it very simply, it's the excessive consumption of anything, and that might be goods, it might be services, or even resources beyond what's actually sustainable or necessary. And this has debilitating effects on the planet. Beyond the hills of waste that can be spotted in many countries now, it's also negatively affecting our natural resources, contributing to environmental degradation and social imbalance. Let me explain this further with a few examples. We all love to shop, right? We all want to look good, stay on trend, and look put together for every occasion. Fashion brands know this fully well and were essentially caught in their trap. This documentary reveals how what was once just a 2-season fashion cycle is now a never-ending stream of new clothes released every month. These clothes are often made from cheap materials that just wither away after a few wears. This is essentially fast fashion, producing low-quality clothes so frequently that they end up as waste almost immediately. And this causes pollution, water wastage to produce the textile, and unethical labor practices that border on being exploitative and many times are exploitative. What's even more disturbing is that many used and unused clothes are sent away in bulk to countries such as Ghana. A country with a population of 30 million is receiving up to 15 million unwanted clothes every week. Take a minute to think about that. And then there's shoes. It's essentially made from a polymer that's extracted from oil, and it slowly degrades and releases microplastics into our environment. And this in turn pollutes water that eventually comes into our soil and our food cycles. Let's switch gears for a minute to talk about tech. Have you ever observed that when your laptop or phone begins to get old, it just suddenly stops working properly? Software updates no longer support older devices, and soon you feel the pressure to upgrade to the swankiest, newest model out there in the market. This is all carefully designed this way to make us want to consume more. And when we throw our devices away, they don't always get recycled properly. Instead, they end up in smaller, often poorer countries where workers have to break them without proper safety measures or equipment. And therefore, they'd be exposing themselves to heavy metals such as cadmium, mercury, chromium, and lead, which are super toxic to them and the planet. The question just has to be asked at this moment. Why do we consume so much? Do we really need this much? The documentary highlights the role of brands leveraging online marketplaces and how they smartly use UI and UX designs to make us want to buy more. Things like flash sales, bright colors, product placements are created to make us shop impulsively. Shopping is now so easy, we can shop from the convenience of our beds or our bathrooms. It's so convenient that it's begun to tread on becoming dangerous. There's also now the rise of the influencer culture. Product hauls, unboxing videos, constant promotions are essentially video formats for an audience watching influencers buy more, perhaps creating a sense of desire amongst each of us. And before we know it, we're trapped in a cycle of overconsumption, all while draining our wallets. Overconsumption is not only deeply destructive to the environment, but it also affects our finances. The constant pressure to buy more puts us on this hamster wheel of spending. But we can't stop purchasing, can we? We need essentials to survive. And therefore, the answer lies in mindful consumption, something that we will be diving into next week in Bare Thoughts. We need to start asking ourselves whether we really need the things we're buying and whether there's a more sustainable and a conscious way to consume. With mindful consumption, we can take back control from the vicious cycle of overconsumption. Let's make smarter choices for ourselves, for our communities, and for the planet. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode of Bare Thoughts. And until next time, let's continue to make zero waste living the norm and not the exception.